The following video contains spoilers. We suggest watching the episodes alone in the dark. Wolfpack, I'm dying. I can't go on anymore. This might be the end. So much left incomplete, so much lost. Wait a minute. I can't die yet. I still haven't even completed reviewing one season of Goosebumps. Well, we'll fix that, because my subs and patrons deserve at least one 100% playthrough. So we're finally tackling the last final season tale on our hit list. How I Got My Shrunken Head! After all these eons, we're at last finishing a full Goosebumps season and exploring a long-lost two-parter many have been requesting for a while. This tale is meh.
You son of a—
Not gonna lie, I've never been too keen on this two-parter, and from what I can tell from the fan base, not too many Goose fans care for it either. How I Got My Shrunken Head is a very amazing book, which brought the saga into a whole new direction by diving into high adventure fantasy for a change, over the typical horror premises we've seen from R.L. Stine prior. Unfortunately, the adaptation is often overlooked compared to other entries, or not fondly idolized by most. While the season 4 premiere definitely does hold some love, I barely hear anyone ever talk about or praise this story arc. This is one of those titles, which was not awful enough to be universally hated, but also wasn't sung about as highly to be cherished among the dazzling gems either. I've seen comments and message boards go back and forth over this entry, some viewing it as epic, while others equally viewing it as bad. By this point, the classic 90s series had begun its descent downhill by entering a radically different direction. Goosebumps the show sought to experiment with entirely new, outlandish storytelling, such as sci-fi and magical fantasy, with some horror elements. To the show's credit, a few of them were shockingly good, and fun adventures which helped Goosebumps stay fresh, thanks to hits like The Perfect School and The Ghost Next Door. Alas, there were also many bad eggs mixed in, where it was clear the new plots were too stupid or cringe to be praised as positive. This two-parter was one of the show's post-quality drop episodes, as it failed to win enough fans back or raise the show's popularity to haunted mask levels again, which tragically led to season 4 being cut short, as the smallest season of our favorite horror saga.
Damn bean counters!
Not helping matters is that this tale is also super different from its book, to the point where there's still a divide between book fans and show fans over which is best. Season 3 and 4 are both not looked back on too kindly, because the show is changing the adaptations way too much in ways that didn't reflect the beloved novels or flat out ruin them by becoming in-name-only crap, with tonight's tale being one of the most remixed of them all. Sorry, book fans, but How I Got My Shrunken Head suffers tons of alterations, and almost feels like a different entity entirely. But the Haunted House game was also heavily redesigned too, only for it to turn out to be delightfully fun, so there could be something sealed away in the hidden temple for us to win.
A hope? A chance.
You all love your Goosebumps, so let's stop wasting time and venture this forest to find out if there's any true magic. A treasure worthy of our museum, or a pile of elephant dung. This is our wacky review on our final season 4 tale, and the show's last epic starter fable, How I Got My Shrunken Head. So, our episode opens up in the suburban jungle, where a literal spooky Amazon box is delivered for our main character, Mark Rowe. Mark's a boy who loves safari culture and enchanting lore of the jungles, dreaming to one day be a great Tomb Raider-style adventurer like his auntie. And in typical Goosebumps fashion, he may get his wish. A solid character persona, but just one tiny problem. He's annoying!
Help! Someone help me! Ah! 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 Help me! Kalia!
Are you listening to me?
Kalia! Kalia! No, my freaking ears!
Like, holy cow, this dude's so obnoxious and loud, you hate him. The sad thing is, I don't think the kid's that bad an actor, but his performance is totally annoying tag-along kid, pushed up to maximum pain. I can't believe this kid was on Degrassi. To the showrunners' cred, Mark has a lot more depth on the show than in the novel. Book Rowe was simply a normal kid, with his adventure to the jungle being more like a vacation gone wrong. TV Mark Rowe, on the other paw, is actually changed to have a character arc. He has no friends, is an only child now, is given a closer relationship with his mysterious aunt, lost his dad, and has a fanboy love for safari stuff and the grass zone, making him feel slightly more unique as a kid hero. I respect that the show wants to make our protagonists deeper, but all goodwill falls when both your lead actor is too irritating and the bad writing fails to support him. We see something escape the Amazon package, where after some decent suspense, we learn the head's alive. One of the rare pros about the episode's changes is how the Shrunken head is actually granted way more importance here than on the page.
I'm part of the team!
The head reveals it's alive and secretly magic right from the get-go, whereas the book saved its true power for a plot twist later. Book Shrunken Head was a puzzle, which the cast had to solve along the journey, while the adaptation cuts out the middleman to remake the totem as a character of its own. By giving the artifact more to do, we, the audience, get to see it as more vital to the story, and understand it's something deadly. I do love the head's design, but tragically, the special effects for it are total ass. Every time I'm almost scared by it hovering at people, my buzz is killed by the hilariously cheap fakeness. This isn't scary, it's silly.
Money!
Well, at least the Shrunken Head tale actually makes the stupid Shrunken Head more prominent. The head almost gets him until his mom and her date enter, as of course they don't believe him.
It was chasing me! It's alive! Alive!
Ed, I'd like you to meet Mark, my son. You'll call me?
Will mom ever get laid? Oh golly gee whiz, not even the first act in, and we reach the biggest issue haters have with this episode. The comedy sucks. For reals, Goosebumps, a horror show, suddenly decides to inject endless wacky hijinks into a series which is meant to be an entryway to serious dark fantasy. How I Got My Shrunken Head is chock full of dumbass screwball comedy antics, which belong in a sitcom over a spooky story, and all it does is deflate any tension the adventure could have. I know Mr. Stine does have lighthearted joke moments and silly stuff from time to time, but the show overdoses on it to the point where you never feel scared, since after some creepy shots or a legit scare, we follow it up with that moronic MCU humor which kills the mood. It's It sucks and makes the episode a chore to sit through because the writers are almost afraid to treat the child audience with any maturity and feel the need to protect them with these cheesy Nick jokes to drown out the scariness that's too unpleasant. It made me hate this story a lot, since it's not only nerfing this epic tale, but also as painfully unfunny as a feminist comedian.
Mom. You killed me.
Don't tempt me.
You killed me.
And don't give me that BS of, oh, well, it's just dumb stuff for kids to laugh at, because you tell me, what freaking kid is going into Goosebumps for the comedy?
Morons! I have morons on my payroll!
And it only gets worse as we meet the wacky sidekicks, such as Mark's cynical, snarky mom. She's a downer bitch who tires of her son's jungle fever, and after tonight's freakout, demands he get rid of his garden to move on to new things. It's Jamaican them crazy!
Maybe you won't mind Kaliaing up this place. All of it.
What?
Mrs. Rowe was fairly normal for a Goosebumps parent in the book, but for really no good reason, the show makes her this uncool, uptight authority figure who's had enough of her son's BS and acts like a total bitch because it upsets her.
I don't even want to see a coconut in here unless it's sliced up in a fruit salad.
Your mama sounds like a messed up bitch.
Goosebumps parents are the worst. Book Mrs. Rowe was more level-headed and encouraged Mark to be who he was, since she had a husband who was often distant from the fam thanks to work. But she's a crazed single Karen mom now, struggling without a man. Or maybe she's a cheating whore. Think about that one, kids. He obeys her, but we know Mark's not beheaded yet. Throughout the episode, he has frequent Silent Hill visions, seeing his beloved Aunt Benna, which teases some ominous powers at work, while also hinting at something more to come. Aunt Benna is the cool Laura Croft of the Rowe fam, who inspires Mark to be a radical adventurer like her, since his own mom sucks.
Well, thank you very much.
What a bitch.
As if by magic, Aunt Benna calls, requiring Mark to come to the jungle of vague Southeast Asian nation for a special visit, as she needs his help, where Mom reluctantly agrees.
You want me to send my son away from home to a jungle on the other side of the world for 2 whole weeks? When?
Goosebumps parents are the worst. We cut to Mark's trip to the fictional jungle isle of Balladora, where he encounters some odd omens.
Kalia. Kalia.
How'd you know that?
Mark! Hey, Mark! Spoiler alert, we never see this guy ever again in the rest of the episode.
What?
Yeah, we focus on this wise old Asian farmer as he's built up to be somebody important for later, but guess what? He never comes back or reveals why he was acting strange towards Mark, and only disappears, making me wonder what the heck was even the point of having him.
Stupid?
Instead of giving you kids something cool, the show rewards us more stupidity. When Mark gets a ride from, no joke, no lie, an Elvis impersonator chauffeur.
Camp's the whole day away by road, and it's too dangerous to drive anyway.
Before we get started, no, I'm not an Elvis impersonator. I just wear this costume to remind his family that he's dead.
I'm not even kidding. Mark hitches a plane ride from an Elvis impersonator chauffeur. What the hell were the writers on?
Opium?
What's worse, this wasn't even a gag in the book. The writers forced in this awkward change themselves for another dumbass joke. In the novel, Jimmy Lowe was actually a military soldier. He was a well-respected pilot who made the story feel cooler because our homeboy Mark was getting to ride alongside a Race Banyan bodyguard. But for some reason, the show staff changed him into an Elvis impersonator because that's totally not lame.
I just wear this costume to remind his family that he's dead.
I don't get why they did it, but whoever thought this was a good idea deserves to be in a jailhouse that doesn't rock. Jimmy Lowe is another bad comic relief because, like every joke, he's not funny. He's just creepier than the Chicken Man. Oh, but we learn Mark's being watched by the guys in white? Oh joy, the least scary villains of Danny Phantom. We get a wacky plane ride with the unfunny funny men, and honestly, the attempts at humor have been the most terrifying moments.
Gonna be a movie star. Listen. I'll be back.
Still better than Dark Fate.
Hide the drapes.
But oh no, something happens! The plane nearly falls right out of the sky, only for the shrunken head to save the day. As I said, the head gets tons more screen time here than it had in the novel, even gaining alternate scenes of using magic to help Mark survive his nightmare vacay. This helps establish the shrunken head as a good guy who, while creepy, has Mark's back and is ultimately a force of nobility since he saves a child and the hound dog. However, I see it as both a blessing and curse. While it does grant the head more focus, it also takes away all mystique surrounding it by revealing the head is fully heroic. Since now that we know the head is noble, we also no longer fear it. The book made the head's wildcard allegiance ultra mysterious, fueling interest in the story thanks to us trying to figure out whose side it was on. But the show throws it all away.
But it was wasted! Wasted on all of you!
This wouldn't be a huge issue so long as the rest of the story was good, but it's not. The idiots land safely at Aunt Benna's science camp, where we meet the other major characters, the Howlings. The Howlings are a family of scientists who partnered up with Benna on a top-secret jungle excavation, but have taken over the project in her absence. We meet each of the family. Corrine, the bratty teenage daughter, played by Princess Margaret from Stay Out of the Basement.
Good morning, Princess. Did you sleep well last night?
What?
Well, never mind.
He's even stopped calling me Princess.
Ha, they said the nickname. Plus, we meet the chipper British mom, Mrs. Howling, and the totally obvious not-a-twist villain, Dr. Howling. The father's played by Mr. Kramer, the dad from Night of the Living Dummy 2, who at last got to be a more over-the-top cartoon baddie. The Howlings are fairly unique characters for Goosebumps, and do have interesting personas, on paper. In the episode, they're pretty campy, cliched adventure series caricatures, who are almost fun, but end up being used for more bad comedy.
What do you mean she's gone? Why didn't someone tell me when I got here?
We didn't want to worry you unnecessarily.
Outside that, they're mostly faithful to their book counterparts. The only big change is Mrs. Howling, who was the Doc's sister, is now his wife. And his sister! I'm not a huge fan of the TV Howlings, and you'll all understand why the more we progress their screen time. For right now, Mark's stoked to be here as he strives for more now that he's living the dream and loves it. But we know it's unsafe because we spot the guys in white here too, serving as an ominous cult of coworkers watching the expedition. Yep, these are seriously our big bad monsters, folks. A bunch of random-ass Asian folks dressed in summer fashion, constantly wearing sinister shades.
I wear my sunglasses at night.
These are easily the lamest Goosebumps villains we've seen since a baby. They're so uncreative, lazy as hell, non-threatening, bland, and barely do anything in what's meant to be a children's epic fantasy. I get that being a lone kid surrounded by creepy adults does have some spookiness behind it, but when the bad guys are lifeless human goons in a magical journey, it does really weaken all fear. Spoiler alert, part, these Matrix agents don't do a damn thing in this story outside of stand around or hold others down. It is lame.
Fuck.
Dr. Howling informs Mark on their expedition. They're researching a lost power known as jungle magic, a force of nature which can save millions thanks to no limit on its divine power. It allegedly stems from this island, somewhere deep in the forest, but when Mark's aunt went after it, she vanished. The Howlings actually summoned Mark here because they need his help to save his missing aunt, believing that if they find Benna, they find the jungle magic. And we reach my biggest gripe with the arc. It is so obvious that the Howlings are the bad guys. Unlike the book, the episode makes it so blatant that they're up to no good by making zero effort to throw us off, or even hide that they're evil. Hell, the Howling Father honestly reminds me of Clayton from Tarzan. He's that blatantly vile.
Mark, there's really no need for any of this.
I'm not a monster.
The Howlings are bad antagonists because they're too obviously evil, have no menace behind them, are so cartoony that they fit every evil white colonizer villain you've ever seen, are not scary, and worst of all, lack any subtlety that you can see their betrayal coming from a mile away in space. I honestly thought the episode was going to try tricking us, but they do such a half-assed job, and the family is just so weird that you don't know whether to cringe or laugh at the director's intent.
What? Is there something on me? A bug?
Licorice gum. I love licorice.
The natural idea was to make the Howlings the evil white colonizers profiting off these poor natives and using them to wield their ancient power for their own gain, but the show wastes more time trying to fake us out or mislead us how the Howlings might not be evil when we know they are. And as a result, the villains don't get to be fiendish fun until way too late in part 2. The Howlings just aren't entertaining baddies and are the weakest twist villains since the Screenslaver. But because Mark's a stupid kid, he trusts these people who've told him nothing about his missing aunt.
Stupid?
Later that night, Mark gains another vision of his Aunt Benna playing coin toss before entering Sam Raimi's Hercules, only to get nabbed by a Spider-Man.
What the fuck?
Wow, just think kids, this was almost the design for the Haunting Hours Dreamcatcher. And exactly like the spooky chicken man, this foreshadowing dream goes absolutely nowhere. Yeah, I have no idea what this means since we never meet a giant spider mutant in this at all, and it doesn't seem to symbolize anything happening, so it's totally useless.
Well, that was pointless.
It's of course all just a fake-out dream where our boy wakes up in the real world. You know, where magical shrunken heads guide us to reveal sinister mysteries afoot. Besides this cheese fest, these effects are atrocious. The head looks so fake and doofy flying around like this, so you never take it seriously. The head leads into the lab where Marky Mark uses the RE7 tapes to see his aunt's time prior to her disappearance.
Hello, this is Dr. Benna Thomas, and I've just been joined on this project by Drs. Richard and Carolyn Hollings, and we will be continuing my...
Boring! Get to the good part! The sad thing is, the show actually altered this scene in a way to get with the times. In the book, Benna kept track of her progress in written journals and papers, but the show shifted it to VHS tapes to ironically add a modern touch to this, only to instantly date itself.
I ain't going to DVD. You can do that all day to me. I'm not going to DVD. We'll see you. Tapes are coming back.
While studying the clues, are you ready for this? We learned that the Howlings are evil, as they intervened in Benna's case, hijacked her test, and the doc returns to his lab wearing his best Nazi robe. Mark hides to eavesdrop on Mr. Howling calling somebody. I have no clue who the heck he's calling. Apparently it's some goon of his who isn't one of the mindless Matrix agents, but it's never explained. Plot hole! The only reason this scene exists is so Dr. Howling brags about how evil he is and gives away that he's using Mark.
We have her nephew.
Oh, a hostage.
We prefer to think of him as our special guest.
Marky Mark grabs his head and dodges him, but fails to make a clean getaway as a Matrix agent ambushes him. Mark's jailed before part 1 ends on our first good twist.
In fact, I'm afraid you're not going anywhere.
Holy cow, we finally get a good scary scene. The guys in white are all cursed and have become empty husks under control of the corrupted jungle magic. I was going to grant some points for this solid twist, but then it hit me. Halfway in, and our first great scare is some guy with glow-in-the-dark eyes. A big-ass fantasy adventure, and CGIs are the sole creepy moment. Even worse, we never see this effect used ever again after this.
Fuck.
Part 1 is not that strong a hook, as it takes forever to actually get rolling, and you can guess exactly where it's heading before the true conflict finally ignites. However, things only escalate into sheer lunacy in the finale. Dr. Howling brings the boy in, drafting Mark in their mission, before revealing the whole story.
I'm afraid we haven't been entirely honest about our situation.
The guys in white, their science team, have been brainwashed into soulless husks by his evil aunt. Years ago, the Howlings and Benna came to this island to study the divine power of the jungle magic, as its abilities could change civilizations as we know it. But Dr. Rowe was corrupted by it. Benna turned evil!
Evil?
Evil?
Benna totally snapped, transforming herself into a power-hungry maniac, and turned their crew into soulless zombies. She was last seen fleeing into the jungle, vowing revenge! Mark was tricked into coming here because the Howlings need his help to reach Benna and bring her back to the light side before it's too late. That way, they can free the natives, use the jungle magic for good, and save the world.
Crap.
Yeah, did anyone actually buy this crap? It's so obvious the Howlings are lying and pulled this all out of their ass. They show practically no concern over Benna being MIA. The zombie minions are serving them, and part 1 literally had this scene.
Oh, a hostage.
We prefer to think of him as our special guest.
This is such a pathetic misdirect that not even the first graders who adore this show would fall for such an epic fail. Heck, the staff even tries showing us how smart the Howlings are with bad computer dubbing.
Hello, Mark. Why don't you come visit me?
As you can see, computers are useful in the jungle too, my boy.
In the book, the Howlings were much more devious, as you never could figure out whose side they were on until the epic twist saved for later. While the adaptation bungles it, this is a dumb fake out because we know the Howlings are evil. They're such bad liars that even Mark catches on and ditches them by morn.
Mark's gone!
What?
no shit.
Our villains, ladies and germs. Mark goes solo to find his answers, but he utterly sucks. The jungle setting is so underwhelming and boring. In most Goosebumps fables, the sets are full of vivid imagery and creepy atmosphere, yet the show makes their mysterious forest feel so basic and uncreative. Now, you don't always need a whimsical world to explore, but compared to such settings like The Perfect School, Fever Swamp, or even the Haunted House game, this dull-ass forest really lacks fun as a love letter for Indiana Jones and Tomb Raider style. In the book, there were temples, creepy fields, dark creatures lurking in the vines, and Mark even fought a tiger. But alas, the show fails to bring the jungle's magic to life.
Money!
Not helping matters is that Mark cranks up his annoyance over 9,000. I was going to praise the kid for outsmarting the evildoers, but then he instantly fails at surviving as a great adventurer, which he's destined to be. He gets lost 20 feet in the forest, cries a lot, acts scared, and falls into quicksand.
Help! Someone help me! Help me!
Our badass kid hero nearly dies and gets saved by Corrine howling, who's had a change of heart. But good lord, Mark cries so much that he makes Cora look like a good chosen one.
It's no good. Can't you get any closer?
If I could come any closer, I'd be up there with you, Corinne! Corinne!
Relax, I'm right here.
Relax!
I'm sorry, Mark.
Oh, that was good. Thanks a lot. Shut up!
This kid sucks. I gotta ask Goose fans, what do people see in this loser? All he's done is scream and get endangered. He's the live-action Harry Grimoire. He does miraculously save himself for once by using his shrunken head and whiny voice.
Holy shit, that sounds terrible!
Unfortunately, the writing's about as weak as our protagonist's worth. For no reason at all, Mark teams up with Corrine, the villain's daughter, because she did one nice thing for him. In the novel, Teen Corrine actually had more depth as a character, as she forms an odd friendship with Mark and even aids him on his quest. It made her very unpredictable, and she was slightly more interesting than her family since she was a reluctant villain, making you ponder if she'd get redeemed by the end. Sadly, the show downplays her arc. She does gain Mark's trust by informing him how her parents are the true villains, who hypnotized the natives to form a slave army, and sought the jungle magic themselves for their own evil. Benna simply beat them to it, so the dynamic duo ally and use the shrunken head to crack the case.
What's it doing?
Showing us the way.
Are you telling me we're taking directions from ahead?
Yeah. Every smart being has a head.
Morons!
While adventuring, Mark informs Corrine and the viewer on his backstory. Benna was there for most of his childhood, raising him more than his terrible Goosebumps parents, and was secretly magical. She wielded an enchanted coin in lieu of a magic wand. These flashbacks have been coming to Mark in order to send him a message he has yet to decode. Yeah, apparently Aunt Benna was a magic anime girl this whole time, and Mark and his mom just plumb forgot that.
This is retarded.
This episode has a very huge pacing problem because all these cool plot points are awkwardly tossed in and pile on into sheer silliness. It doesn't have the breathing room of a book. The head takes the kids to a hut literally a few feet from the villain base, which somehow, despite sticking out like a sore thumb, the genius Howlings never saw.
This is retarded.
They're trap-holed by Mono Tiki Tia. Psych, it's really Aunt Benna, Queen of the Dragons, who hid in the magic forest to give DreamWorks something to rip off.
What are you doing here? How did you get? How did you
find me here?
You've been missing for frickin' years. You didn't think your family would care to look into your disappearance?
This is retarded.
Benna hid here for years in order to keep the jungle magic safe, out of the paws of those howlings. But surprise, Kareen's evil. She used Mark to lead her fam right to Benna. What? The villain's daughter, who showed zero remorse for their actions, was actually evil?
Oh, for the love of my heathen god!
Not only is this twist super obvious too, but it butchers Kareen's novel counterpart. On the page, Kareen genuinely felt guilty for betraying Mark, and truly did want to be friends, but it was tragic how her loyalty to her sick family was more important to her. The show simply makes her a 100% evil cow, worse than her evil parents.
It was easier than I thought it would be. You have to believe me. You just have to. You're a real sucker, you know that, Mark?
Fucking bitch.
It's a tad disappointing how the best villain from the book was turned into a one-note brat. Despite capturing our heroes, they still have no clue how to wield the jungle magic. So they take them away to a frickin' ridiculous James Bond trap. What even is this anymore? Would any of you look at this and immediately think, oh, it's Goosebumps? Also, how the hell did Aunt Benna not see that in front of her?
Plot hole! Not really. That's more of a continuity error. Plot hole!
The villains give an ultimatum. If Benna doesn't grant them the secret formula, then they'll shrink Mark forever.
Either you tell me what I want to know, or the next time you see your nephew, he'll be wearing a much smaller hat.
I am so freaking wasted!
That's it. The big bullet is they'll shrink Mark. We've abandoned scary in favor of campy now, kids. The doc counts down his bath time, but Mark at long last puts the pieces of the puzzle together. Through absolutely zero foreshadowing or clues, Mark recalls what his aunt told him long ago. That he's magical too, deep down. Meaning that the jungle magic is, and always has been, within him all along. Yes, the shrunken head never actually gave him power, all those times it clearly used power. Mark is the chosen one, destined to save the jungle the entire time.
Look, if you're not gonna take this seriously, I'm out.
Yep, we've reached max cringe. In the book, it was all the damn head. The shrunken head was a totem, which had the jungle magic sealed inside it. But the show makes Mark have a pretty sloppy hero's arc where he has faith in himself as a true mage by unlocking the jungle magic, which was in himself the whole time, which is mega lame, and makes the head completely meaningless. Mark goes Super Saiyan God mode and saves himself before we get a bad climax.
He can fly!
He can fly! These effects are dog poo. How the halibut did we go from Trilogy and Living Dummy to these YouTube poop screens? This piss poor final battle kills any goodwill left because of how laughable it is. Mark flies now, White saviors the day, frees the slaves, and uses his powers to turn the tables on the Howlings, where they fall.
He slimed me.
Our villains, ladies and germs. And that's literally it. The heroes win and White savior the jungle magic. But for no reason explained at all, Mark relinquishes the jungle magic to his aunt and returns to a normal life. Gee, thanks for taking away the only unique thing which made this kid hero 1% cool, Goosebumps. That'll help us remember Merv? but we learn it was all just a story Merv was sharing with his mom's new boy toy, who has my exact reaction. Yeah, somehow Mark gets his life in order, is more mature, his family's happy again, and Ro finally gains some rest. But not before our twist ending. It was all real, since Mark has the Howling fam as his new pets to hold them prisoner forever. The book's ending instead had Marky Mark sharing his chronicles as a story for his class, but the twist revealing that the head was alive the entire time when he asks to tell the story himself in a final joke. Not a bad endnote, but nor super funny. It's another rare good change, since on the page, the defeated Howlings run away into the forest, never to be seen again, whereas the show at least rewards them a much more humorous comeuppance.
Don't worry, you guys. My Aunt Benna said she was gonna find a way to bring you back to your normal size. When? On my 16th birthday.
No! Richard, do something! What can I do?
Let's just pick up our plates and go eat in the Hollow Castle.
And that was how I got my shrunken head. More like how I got bored freaking dead, because that was dull as heck. Yeah, there's a reason why I've pushed this episode back for so long, since I'm not a fan of it whatsoever. I can understand why some do love it, as it does try a ton of fun new ideas, which took Goosebumps outside of the usual formula, does take risks with some larger-than-life scales, and sought to feel like a fantasy adventure, but it doesn't hit every bullseye like it desired. The show tries to fix some issues with the book, but ironically add dozens of more problems that ruin the adaptation. Even with amended plot hole or deeper arc here and there, there's so many baffling decisions. I mean, David Lynch dream sequences, chosen ones, cheesy blue screens, Elvis impersonators, and Spider-Man?
Everybody gets one.
These changes unfortunately rob the novel's fun, and as a result harm the story in TV form. It doesn't help that this isn't scary. This episode doesn't feel like a Goosebumps story. It feels like a Jonny Quest story, and tragically not a good one, because the showrunners inject so much goofy comedy and wacky antics out of concern the plot would be too dark for their young audience, but come across as insulting because they had to nerf a horror fable on a horror series. I would have had a blast if this was like Brendan Fraser's Mummy or Black Lagoon, the monster pick, not the anime, but it just felt like a safe, child-friendly Spy Kids romp. Even with a lighter and softer approach, the episode is also full of weak elements, which made it a chore to sit through. Mark Rowe is an annoying kid character who's too loud and doofy to root for. The comedy's so corny that it slaughters all tension. It's not scary after 6 minutes. The plot itself grows stupider and stupider the more it goes on. It downgrades a solid book. The Howlings are terrible villains. The effects are birdemic bad. It lacks any surprise. It bull rushes so much content which could be interesting. The Shrunken head itself is made useless thanks to the twist, and worst of all, it's boring. This is an episode which I have no desire to revisit, because it left me feeling nothing thanks to a mediocre journey. And to me, that's the worst thing a story can ever be. A forgettable adventure, which was meant to be a big-ass grand epic on par with Tomb Raider or The Mummy, only to end up with a shrunken bang. So, I give How I Got My Shrunken Head a bronze skull. This is not F-tier trash like The Blob or Barking Ghost, as it does have some potential and fun concepts that might impress the kiddies. But alas, I don't recommend it, since there's not too much good here, like on superior episodes, to make it awesome. The book was better. How I Got My Shrunken Head is a mediocre letdown sealed in a temple of doom. I'm your host, Catastrophe, and I must fly!
you telling me we're taking directions from ahead?